Welcome to the Inside Out Money Podcast.
Can't even recognize this place. Too many pieces of our past mistakes.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I believe real change starts from the inside out. So let's work together to improve our money and our lives from the inside out. We will explore all things money and our relationship with it. Join me each week with a rotating set of co-hosts, friends, and interviews. Let's jump in.
It's time, we going round and round and round and round and round.
Hello.
Hey, Maggie.
Welcome back, Greg.
Thanks.
Yeah, so in case you don't recognize that voice, that's Greg. He has graced us with his presence today. So there, every now and then, even though Greg is like, I'm not going to do the podcast anymore, you're here, right?
I am. And I mean, partially you may not recognize my voice because I'm recovering from a cold. So it's a little squeaky. So that's part of it. But when a riveting topic like today's comes up, there's no keeping me away from recording this podcast.
Yeah. That is Greg's sarcastic voice, in case you can't tell. Okay. Welcome to Inside Out Money, a personal finance podcast focused on redefining wealth from the inside out. Each week, I speak with a rotating set of co-hosts about a different financial topic to help you improve your financial mindset and tactics. And like I said, we've got co-host Greg here today. He is my favorite co-host to sleep with, but also my husband, to be clear. And we are going to deep dive into the world of home warranties. Like, are they a financial safety net or are they a money pit? We are going to break down how they work, the pros, the cons, all of the details so that you can decide if a home warranty is right for you. We'll also explore the differences in having one for your primary residence versus for like a rental property. Okay, Greg.
Yes.
I got a question. What did you think of home warranties before you and I met?
Well, I had one on my rental property for many years before you bought into that. Part of that was I wanted to be really hands off and I didn't want any surprises. So
Did your realtor recommend that? How did you even first get it?
I think when I hired a management company, they mentioned that they're nice to have and that
So they suggested it.
I think suggested it. I don't think they really pushed it hard, but I think they just mentioned it and suggested that it, could be helpful and make things a little more predictable from an expense perspective.
Okay. Well, yeah, that is one of the pros of them. Definitely can help with making expenses more predictable.
Although I don't know that I would have wanted one for my primary residence, though.
Yeah.
So I probably had mixed feelings, just like any kind of extended warranty.
Yeah.
You sometimes think, gosh, am I just flushing money down the toilet?
Yeah. Well, I will say my early thoughts were that home warranties were always a bad idea. And a little bit because of that reason, because I thought they were like unrequired kind of quote insurance products and that those were always bad. I will say I warmed up to the idea of them when done strategically and thoughtfully, like all things financial related. And we've done a little bit of like a personal experiment with a home warranty ourselves in the past year. And we've had them on many rental properties and we've had them turned on, we've had them turned off. We've kind of seen both ends of things. And so, I'd say we have a decent amount of experience with home warranties, which is why Greg is coming on for this episode. I can really only convince him to come on the podcast now when it's like a topic that only he can do with me. So he's excited to be here is what he meant to say.
I am excited to be here. Hopefully this is helpful for people.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's first talk about what home warranties are and how they work. So I think the first thing that's worth pointing out about home warranties is that it's not homeowners insurance, right? Homeowners insurance is actually legally required, not actually by the state or federal law. It's mostly required by mortgage lenders. So they won't give you a mortgage unless you have homeowners insurance. Once your property is paid off, I actually think you technically don't have to have homeowners insurance, though I would never recommend that you don't have it because it's such a large asset. So even like we own our home outright, we've paid off our mortgage, but I still, like in our case, would strongly recommend anyone still have homeowners insurance because it protects you. It protects a very significant investment and can, cover costs for like, crazy damage where like something crazy happens and your house burns down or, you wouldn't want to like lose everything overnight. So though homeowners insurance is quite expensive.
Yeah, I can't imagine not having it.
Yeah,
That
I
feels
agree.
like a tremendous risk.
But our point is, it's not homeowners insurance, right? That's to cover your house. Home warranties, it's actually not really even like an insurance product. It's more like a service product. So they are these standalone companies that specialize in service contracts. So again, they're not insurance companies. Some of them are like, there might be some larger insurance companies that actually have a separate division or subsidiary that offers home warranties. But the majority of home warranty companies are like independent entities and they're standalone companies. Again, they're like in the business of specializing in service contracts. And they're often regulated at like a state level. And again, they're not insurance companies. And the purpose of them is a service contract for repairing or replacing major systems and appliances in your home, right? So homeowners insurance covers when like something, your house floods and there's like major damage. A home warranty covers when like your dishwasher breaks, which your homeowners insurance would not cover, right? And so the way most of these plans work is you pay a monthly or annual fee. They vary. Different companies, like the company we work with, used to only have annual fees. Now they used to only have annual plans. Now they have monthly plans, which I personally really like. And they have all sorts of different levels of coverage. Every company is different. Sometimes they'll be like the cheapest package and it only covers certain things, and it has limits on certain. It'll have like an HVAC limit on how much it covers for an HVAC replacement. And then there's ones where, you pay a higher level, like there's their, platinum gold level or whatever. And it's got, a lot more coverage on it. And so the idea is when you have an issue, you put in a call to the home warranty company and you actually pay a service fee. And sometimes the different levels of a plan you're on dictate how much the service fee is. So sometimes they'll charge you more per month to have a smaller service fee, a little bit more per month to have like a $20 less service fee or something. But the service fee can often be about, like, ours is about $100 on some plans we have now. And that means when you put in a claim for, let's say, something's wrong with your toilet or there's something wrong with a faucet, you put in a claim and it's $100 to have someone come out, right? And they choose who comes out. You don't choose. We'll talk about that more. But essentially, that's how home warranties work. Anything I missed there, Greg?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you mentioned appliances, but it covers appliances. Generally, it will cover electrical systems, your plumbing system, your HVAC system. So it's not just small appliances, but it tends to be these whole home kind of systems. And again, depending on what type of plan you have, will also dictate what is covered or what is not covered. And there's a lot of specific language as to if a system is covered and if so, to what extent it's covered. So, I mean, it's a mix of a service plan, but it is in essence insurance too, even though it's not, owned by traditional insurance companies, because you are insuring against something going wrong. So, you pay this service fee of $100. They come out and it's a quick fix. Well, maybe they've actually made some money on you because maybe the repair cost them less than 100. But let's say your condenser needs to be replaced and it's an expensive repair. As if that service company comes out and says, yes, it needs to be repaired, there's no other way to fix it, and then the home warranty company approves that repair, it may cost significantly more money, but you're only paying that $100 service fee. So it is kind of an insurance, a warranty on all of the appliances within your home.
But there's a lot of fine print also.
There is.
So
yeah.
we'll get into, like, in that example, often they're not just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to pay for everything. They're kind of like, well, I'm going to pay for this part of it, but this upgrade to your electrical system is not covered, right? And so we'll get into some examples of that in the pros and cons of home warranties. So let's like segue into some pros and cons.
Okay.
So let's start with the pros, right? The good thing about having a home warranty is it provides a level of financial predictability. So you know that you're paying, like let's say, I'm going to look at as an example, let's say you're paying $80 a month for a home warranty, right? You know that you're budgeting that $80 a month, and you know that you may have, 3 to 4 service calls a year, and you can budget for that. And so you can budget 8 times 12, which is what? 96? $960?
Yeah, 960.
Plus, you could budget $1,500 a year for home maintenance. Now, it doesn't cover all home maintenance, right? It covers like major appliances and systems, and like, and again, you got to read the fine print because they're all different, but it covers a lot of the more expensive things that can go wrong in a home in terms of needing maintenance. But it gives you some level of like, if you would be thrown off by all of a sudden needing to replace an HVAC system for $5,000 or $10,000, right? You are then paying a manageable and predictable annual or monthly fee, and then a service call fee. And you hope, fingers crossed, because these things do have some fine print in them, which we'll get into in the cons, but you hope in that situation, you wouldn't end up with a $5,000 bill for a new HVAC system, that your home warranty would cover it. So that's one of the big pros. There's also a good bit of like convenience of like vetting contractors. So I know I tend to take the lead with our rentals and probably with our home too, Greg, on like calling and vetting contractors. Yeah. And like, it is nice that, the warranty company finds a qualified, licensed, insured, they're not just calling some random person off the street. They're vetting people. And I'm not saying they don't all, they're not all perfect people, but they are vetting people that are like licensed, insured, regulated in some way. You don't have to stress about who to find when
you call one number, or in many cases you don't even have to call someone. It's easy to put in
there's an app,
a ticket through the app or through the website. And so it's pretty nice to be able to just say, put in a ticket. You don't have to call around and say to your neighbors like, hey, what plumber do you recommend? Or who do you recommend for dishwasher repairs? And I have no idea. And so it is nice to just be able to put in a ticket and kind of move on and not worry about it.
And I think on this stuff, like I'm often like, it depends on, yourself, your lifestyle. Like if you're busy at work all day, like Greg and I are both early retired right now. We've got time to like screw around and call 20 plumbers and like track them down and wait for calls back. I don't really want to do that with my day, but I could. But when I was working, I didn't have time for that. So like I needed to call somebody, and I needed to know that they were going to come when they said they were going to come, and that there was like some repercussions that they didn't. And so it is nice from that perspective of like, I call one, I get a call from a rental tenant that the washing machine quit working, and I right away can go into an app and put a ticket in. And within 24 hours, I've got a date. I know when they're coming out. I've got, it's just like, it's a company that I didn't have to choose, and they're going to come out and look at the washing machine, and they'll figure out next steps, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk more about like what that can look like.
Well, I think too, sometimes when you look at vendors too, people are often worried like, oh, are they overcharging me? Do I need to get multiple quotes because, someone trying to take advantage of me? And, your home warranty company has that data. They know what a HVAC repair is supposed to cost in general. So, they're dealing with that. They're making agreements with these service vendors for competitive rates, and they're, the ones negotiating, probably saying, if you want all of our business, you're going to cut us, a good deal on repairs. And they're doing that kind of stuff for you. So you don't have to sit there and say, gosh, is this a good rate or not? Am I being taken advantage of? You're paying your $100 and you're moving on and hopefully getting a repair, and hopefully everything's covered, and, there's no small print carve outs, but it really can make things much more convenient, especially if you're managing multiple properties.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk about like rentals versus your personal home, but, keep that in mind as you think about if you ever want to use a home warranty. Okay. Another pro is just peace of mind, right? So in general, it gives you a sense of security, right? So especially if you're like a new homeowner, you're unfamiliar with your home's history, there's just older aging systems, and you're kind of worried about stuff. Like it does give you some bit of peace of mind. It's not perfect, but it can help, right? It can be a nice thing depending on, again, where you're at in your life and whether you're new in your, owning of a home. It might even be that you're actually much older and you just don't want to deal with this stuff, right? And it might be something where you're, aging parents, actually. It's helpful to, if you're doing a lot of stuff on their house, it's actually helpful to have a plan for them or something like that. And then I think the last big pro is that like it can be a selling point. So sometimes a realtor or a seller of a home will actually offer this as an incentive to a buyer. And so they'll say like, oh, it's like prepaid for the year. And often that's, a $500 to $1,500 investment. So it's not a massive amount versus the cost of, buying a home. But it is a nice thing to say, hey, in theory, when someone just prepaid for you for a home warranty for a year, you shouldn't have a lot of like massive things that you're going to have to like be out of pocket for in the next year.
Yeah. Well, and kind of on that peace of mind that you were just on, you mentioned aging parents, but also if the home is aging, it's something where it can help. And what is kind of cool about these things is that you don't have to have had your home insured through a home warranty to get coverage. So it is pretty amazing that you can come in. One of our rental properties has a very aging HVAC system, and we just came in and said, we want to add it to the home warranty. They didn't say,
I
well,
didn't come
show us
look
your
at it.
service
Yeah.
records. Have you taken care of it? It's kind of wild in some ways that they will actually take on these things
Yeah.
because you think about like,
It's not like life insurance, like they
yeah,
look
you,
at your body and like your stats
yeah.
before they'll insure you.
Or some like extended warranties, like with Apple products, you can add Apple Care, but you have to do it at the time you purchase it. You can't have it uninsured until it's like 8 years old and then say, oh, now put the insurance on when it's about to break, because Apple knows that's losing. For some reason, guess they have a model where they make enough money off of you, but they don't say, oh, this thing is almost at end of life. We're not covering that. Like we've never had them say this thing is gonna probably die in the next 2 years. Why would we want to insure it for you? They still take it on. So that is kind of nice if you get an aged home or a home with some older components, and you know that they're going to be, uh, near end of life.
It is interesting. I mean, there is a waiting period. So when you turn on a new home warranty, often there's like a 30 to 60-day waiting period before you can file your first claim. So you can't have like a broken HVAC and then set up a
Sign it
home
up,
warranty
and yeah,
tomorrow. But we'll talk about that in a minute because there are some things you could do. But let's move to the cons, right? Because we'll cover some of this stuff. Okay. The biggest con of home warranties, and let me be clear, there's a lot of cons on home warranties, right? Like I think they are interesting in the right scenarios and again when sort of used thoughtfully and strategically. But they're not perfect. There's a lot of cons. So the first one is just coverage gaps, right? Like the devil is in the details. You've got to read what the coverage is and you got to read the fine print. And I say read the fine print, but like also most of the companies are pretty upfront when you just like read it. They'll have like a big asterisk next to something even in their marketing materials and you like go read that and you're like, "Oh, okay." So sometimes the fine print might even say that like pre-existing conditions or that like improper maintenance or misuse are not covered, but that's really hard for someone to even like know or measure or
yeah,
quantify.
we've not encountered that. We've never had them ask about the service history of an
I
appliance,
mean,
to
I'll
my
have them
knowledge.
make comments of like, oh, it looks like this hasn't been cleaned in a while or something. And I will say, and we'll talk about this more towards the end, but like all this stuff is negotiable. So one of the biggest cons with home warranties is that they're like an insurance company. Their goal is to, I mean, I'm just being
Make money.
honest.
I mean, they
Yeah, their
want to
goal
make
is
a
to make money.
profit.
So they want to they want to pay as little as possible on your claim. Sometimes they're like a pleasure to work with and it's very smooth and it's not a big deal. But sometimes you got to kind of negotiate with them and you got to like say like, no, and sometimes you're even dealing with the vendor, the contractor that comes out, and they can sometimes even be helpful about how to work with a home warranty company. But we'll get into that in some of our tips for this at the end. But the idea is that you really do want to really understand the coverage. So certain components could be excluded. So we have an example of like we had one of the cheaper plans, like the less full coverage of a plan on a rental property, and the HVAC quit working. Yeah, the furnace quit working. And they basically covered it, but it was really, really old. And they didn't cover the fact that like a bunch of like wiring and like electrical and plumbing and different things were not up to code on it. And so in the end there was like probably $6,000 worth of work. We had to pay like 2,000 of it, but they covered like 4,000 of it. So we it was great for us, right? We still paid less than we would have paid had we gotten that work done. And again, you can negotiate. So you can push back. You can call back and say, hey, well, like, why isn't this covered? I really want to understand it. And you can work with it's just like a lot of things. Like you can work
Kind of
with the
escalate
contractor.
it.
Yeah, you can escalate it. You can work with the contractor. I've had things where they sort of don't cover something and then I push back between the contractor and the company. And it's a little bit of a hassle, but you like fight for your rights and what you think is right in the situation. And again, you just want to keep in mind what is actually covered versus not. So there could be limits on things. So like the company we use now that we really like is American Home Shield. They have like a silver, gold, and platinum plan. At each level, there's like at the silver level, there's 19 major systems are covered between like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, etc. At the gold level, there's 28 systems that are covered. So there's additional systems that are covered. And so again, you just want to like read the details and read the fine print and understand what's covered, what's not, so that you're not dealing with any surprises. And realize that in many cases, everything won't be covered. So let's say you have a really old washing machine from like the 80s. They'll cover, it's kind of like an insurance company with a car, right? They're not going to buy you like a $2,000 washing machine. They're going to cover like one of the cheapest washing machines that's out there, right? So you don't always get to choose what they're supposed to replace it with a like model, right? And so that is sort of to their discretion on like what is considered a like model. And you just got to keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll have a choice to take a payout versus like they'll give you $500 towards a new washing machine if you want to get a nicer one or something like that. And so there's different things you can do to kind of like work with them on that. But just keep that in mind. It's not like you're going to, you're not going to take some really old washing machine from the 80s and get like the most modern, fanciest washing machine from the 2025s. If you have a brand new washing machine that you bought 6 months ago and it quits working, then they will replace it with that same brand new washing machine though. But it's more that it's like they're not going to replace your old stuff with new modern stuff. They're going to replace your old stuff with new, similarly priced stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the next potential con is the service fees. They usually around $100, and you cannot just lump in different types of repairs. If your washing machine breaks and then you have an electrical issue, you can't just combine the two and say, okay, we're going to put in one service fee. So if you have different types of issues over the span of a few months, those service fees can start to add up. What you can do, though, at least with American Home Shield, I assume other ones have something similar, is that you can put in multiple issues of the same category. So if you're having an electrical issue with an outlet that needs to be fixed, and then you say, gosh, there's also been this other issue with this light switch that hasn't worked, but we've just never really needed it. It's not been high on the list to get it fixed. You can say, oh, well, since we're already putting in a ticket for one electrical item, let's add these others. And Maggie's done that with some plumbing issues where we had one plumbing issue that was more urgent, but we'd had a couple other issues with a faucet that was leaking that was not super high priority. But since we were already putting in one plumbing ticket and paying that fee, we went ahead and added those extra plumbing issues, and they all got fixed at no extra charge to us, just that one service fee for quote unquote plumbing.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I didn't even know that was the case until I was going into the system and I was like loading a plumbing issue. And then I was like, wait a minute, I can put more in and it's under the same fee because it's a plumber already coming out. And I think it was like up to 4 I could put in at once. And I was like, well, we've had it was like the thing in our kitchen sink was like dripping for years. It still worked, but it was just like not working quite right. And like he fixed it and he like replaced the whole part and it was great. Yeah, so there's some like nice ways where, again, if you like use it thoughtfully and strategically, it can be very nice. Okay, another potential con is some people think, and some of these companies potentially use like the lowest bid contractors, and it can lead to like less good quality repairs and less good communication and other things. I will be honest, I have not really seen this. I've seen this like maybe a little bit here and there, but like for the most part, some of the companies that they use are actually companies that I've like used and have really good reviews. And so,
meaning some of the companies that have come out under the warranty, we've actually said, wow, they were good. And we've then used them for other non-warranty types of jobs, right? Because we've liked them.
Yeah. And I've like looked them up and I've heard of them before and they have good reviews. And so it's not always the case. And ultimately, you're still under a service contract with them. So if they do a bad job repairing something, most of them actually have a follow-up period where if they come and like fix your faucet and it breaks 2 weeks later, you don't have to pay another service fee. Like you have like like with American Home Shield, we have like a 30-day warranty once they've fixed that thing. that if it's still not working, like we had that issue with our dishwasher, it was like still not working. He kept coming back to like look at it. And every time he came back, it like restarted the 30 days, which was nice.
Yeah, and so that's an example. Let's talk about that dishwasher repair. They came out. He ran a cycle and he said, I don't see anything.
First off, we called them because Greg was convinced that our dishwasher was not actually washing the dishes.
Right. It was a subtle issue. It wasn't that the dishwasher wasn't working at
made
all.
noises.
It was just everything on the bottom rack didn't seem to be getting as clean. And so he kind of came out and he was like, well, no, as long as there's water flowing, and he did some test where he put a cup in and the cup was full. About
He puts a cup in like each corner and he's like, well, there's water in the cup.
So he kind of says, maybe make the water warm first, and he leaves. And
He gives us a tip. He's like, sometimes you got to like run the hot water for a minute first.
Yeah.
It's not, and I was like, okay.
So a week and a half goes by and we're like, this is just not working.
And we
right?
did some tests. We put some
We
extra
tested
dirty
it,
dishes in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we then called him back out and he said, oh, well, actually, maybe it is the motor on the bottom. And then orders the motor. Long story short, it gets fixed. I assume if you were just hiring a company that was a appliance repair company, on the first outing, they probably would have said, hey, why don't we replace the motor? That's going to be $350, but that's going to fix it no matter what. Whereas they're kind of probably trying to save money. So he tried so we had to basically have 2-3 visits instead of one. But at the end of the day, it got repaired and we spent $100 on a repair that probably would have been several $100s. And our dishwasher that's 10 plus years old is still going strong.
Great. So. Yeah. And then like, we'll get into this in the tips, but it's a good example of like, you have to fight for your rights with stuff. And that sounds like,
nothing that
yeah.
But you gotta be assertive and kind of just
yes.
say, hey, I know you said you didn't think this was broken. We really think it's broken.
Yeah.
And that was kind of all it took. He came back out and he goes, okay, if you really say it's broken, then maybe this motor, let me put in a ticket and see if they'll approve replacing the motor.
And then as soon as you replace the motor, worked like a charm.
Yeah.
Like Greg was right. It was not working. Okay. Another con potentially is like, they can just deny your claim, right? I have not actually seen this really. Like, again, I've more seen that they have said, hey, we won't replace the entire HVAC system because this part of the bill is not our responsibility based on the terms. Like this stuff is out of code and like, needs to be updated. And so we won't pay for that. And so most of it is not, I don't think we've ever seen one where, and we've gone through like multiple different companies over, 10 plus years of different companies. And
yeah, no, I mean, if the service provider that comes out has said this needs to be replaced, I've never had them just completely deny it. Now, maybe if the service provider thinks it can be repaired, they're probably going to go for the repair versus the replacement.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I thought we might get a new dishwasher out of that situation. We didn't get a new dishwasher,
no,
but that's fine. I don't
working.
want a new appliance if we don't have to. Okay, this is a good segue. So we actually did a thoughtful experiment. We have had home warranties on our rental properties for years, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But like, we've never had one on our own personal home. And after an experience with some stuff on our rental properties recently, I was like, it'd be interesting to like have one on our house. Like I was like, I kind of have some stuff I need to get fixed. That's not like broken, but pressing, like
dripping faucets, for instance.
Faucets, yeah.
Light switch that it has 2 switches for the same room. One of them works, one of them doesn't.
Funny with the electrical, yeah. And we also had somebody tell us that we had the person that does the like maintenance on our HVAC system was like, I don't remember what the problem was, but it was like, your flame is moving. And I'm butchering that statement, but it was something about the flame.
That was his diagnosis. You have a moving flame.
No, there really was.
He was part of the Twin Flames movement. I don't know if you've seen that documentary on Netflix, and he was like, you've got a wavy flame.
Yeah, your flames aren't matching.
They thought there was a crack in some part of the AC, and he basically said, you're going to have to replace your whole AC. We'll do it for you, and it's going to cost you, $7,000 or $8,000. Can we come out on Monday and do it?
Yeah,
and we were like, whoa.
I was like, what do I look like, a sucker?
Like, we've not had any issues with this. And so
it's working fine.
I think that was...
So then I was like, well, I've got some other stuff that's kind of like lingering issues around the house. let's turn on a home warranty, wait our 30 days for it to like start working. Because again, you can't file a claim on day 1. You can file a claim on day 31. And I didn't wait till day 31. I waited till like day 60 because, you know, I'm polite. And we were just like, let's do it. And we actually purposely did the like platinum level that was the most expensive. So we were paying about $90 a month. It was like $100, but we got it on like a Capital One discount. There was like a Labor Day sale or something, and we got it on a little bit of a discount. And it was monthly, so we could cancel at any time. And I was like, cool. And because we did the like nice plan, it actually included a free HVAC inspection. So I was like, great, they're going to come out, inspect our HVAC, see that the flame is messed up, and then they're going to like give us a new HVAC system. No. This is not how the world works, guys. So the guy came out and was like, your HVAC's great, looking great.
And so then the question was, well, are they only saying that because they want to save money for the home warranty company? But we also had some other contractors that were doing some work on another project, and we had their HVAC contractor take a look, who validated that the AC was fine.
Yeah, the home warranty company was right. So anyways, I will say a thumbs up for like the, you know, reputation of the contractor quality at a home warranty company, of who they work with, because they actually were more on the up and up than this other company, which is a very well-known established HVAC company that, you know, I feel like did us dirty. Actually, by the way, you know, I called back after all that happened and I got my money back on our service plan. I said, I feel very violated. I was like, really gave them a very stern talking to, Greg.
She was like, you know, my flame is good enough for Greg,
Yeah.
even if it's a little wavy.
I told him there's no air in my flame.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the same flame I've had.
And it was kind of rude for him to look at your flame. Really.
Very inappropriate. Well, I mean, you were home while he was looking at the flame, Greg. Okay, Greg, this is why Greg doesn't come on the podcast anymore. He's just like a middle school boy. Okay, but on that note, we didn't get a new HVAC system, but we did work out that whole issue. It was fun. I find this stuff fun. I'm like, it's like interesting. So, but what we did do is we got like every plumbing problem. We had like 5 broken faucets in our house. Like our kids hadn't had hot water in their bathroom.
We'd forgotten, but
I
they
forgot 'cause they
reminded
never-
us. They're like, oh, by the way, you know, we still don't have hot water in
I
our
don't even
faucets.
think they reminded us. They don't complain about
I
it.
think they did mention it at
Oh.
some point.
No, the fact that the kids don't complain about that is just like shocking to me. Anyways, so now the kids have hot water in their bathroom, which is very exciting for them.
They had it in their shower,
They
just
had it in
not
the
their
shower.
faucet.
It was just not in the sink. Yeah, that's actually what led us to get a water filtration system in the whole house, because it was actually like, you know, rust and debris that was
Yeah.
stopping up the faucets and things. So anyways, we got like a ton of faucets. We got like a shower head replaced. They fixed our dishwasher. Yeah, it's been an interesting experiment. I think we are gonna turn it off or turn it down to a different level. Because I think it, like, our intent was only to try it for a while and kind of see how it felt. I don't want to pay this $90 a month
Into
long-term.
perpetuity. Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew we had some issues that we wanted fixed. So yeah, but it has been kind of interesting, kind of figuring out how to maximize the use of it. You know,
Yeah.
saying, oh, we have one plumbing issue that really is urgent, but let's figure out any other plumbing related issues.
Yeah.
Let's spend a day or two thinking about what could we possibly, you know, plumbing issue related. Have we just sort of said, oh, well, it's not that big a deal.
We just got used to like
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
But if we already got a plumber coming out and they're charging us $100, let's make sure they address everything. And it's really cool to me that you can do that. I think that's like a really nice feature.
I don't know if you remember it, Greg. I actually used one of those service calls. I had just installed a new sink in the kids' bathroom. And I knew I did something not quite right, but I wasn't really sure what. And there was like a little
With the
leak.
drainage, I think.
It was just,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. It was a little leak.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just told the guy, I mean, I was honest with him. I was like, the sink's leaking. And then I was like, I mean, I did install this like 2 days ago. And I was like, what did I do wrong? And he like showed me what I did
Yeah.
wrong. He's very nice. But I was just like, it was true. The sink is leaking.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and that's an example too, where we've used that plumber now for
Yeah, they
installing the
installed
water,
the whole
the
house
water
water, yeah.
filtration system, because we liked them so much.
yeah, they were great. Okay. So here's my like hot take on warranties. again, I've said this like a number of times, but like you got to use them strategically and thoughtfully. So like, do you have a really old home with like tons of old appliances? Like it might be interesting for you to use it, right? For you to have one. Are you really good at maintaining yourselves? Are you like super handy and savvy and you like to fix stuff yourself? Then you might not be it might not be the right thing for you, right? So I really just think you need to think about you and your situation and like the ROI of your situation and also your own saving and spending habits. So ultimately, like your emergency fund should cover all the stuff we're talking about. But there are some people that aren't great at creating and having an emergency fund, right? And so maybe if that's you, something like this could be more interesting to you. It's impossible to like perfectly predict the ROI of a situation like this. Like we kind of did that experiment with having one on our personal home, and I really was like, I want to know if I like in the end, quote, make money off this.
Yeah. And
It was probably a wash in the end, honestly.
I mean, ultimately, these companies wouldn't stay in business unless they were bringing in more money than they were putting out.
Yeah, they're
So
making money
at the
off
high
somewhere.
level, they're, you know, able to turn a profit. But I will say, I think, like you said, for certain situations, if you're earlier in your savings and you buy a house and you've, kind of spent all your money on the down payment and you want to build an emergency fund, but maybe for 6 months until you have that fund built up or a year, this is not a bad idea to get this just so you don't have some big expense that comes out of pocket and then you end up putting it on a credit card or something, which would really be, the wrong thing. So I think it really can be good. I don't think you should do this in lieu of having an emergency fund because emergency funds are great because they can be used for anything. And if you don't use them, you keep them versus this where that money's gone. I do think it can be really helpful for certain people.
I will say I think it is more attractive on rental properties for
I
sure.
agree.
Like I like having it on a rental property. I won't keep it on my personal home long term, right? I think it's like that's where I would use it strategically and thoughtfully, like in the example you gave, Greg, and it was kind of a fun experiment for us to do. But on a rental property, like it can be a big time saver. It can help with budgeting and more predictable cost. It's a deductible expense. It can help with tenant relations also because you can kind of say like, look, I've got to call into the home repair company. It's a little bit of a barrier too to say, look, I'm working through the home warranty company, like they're gonna fix, and like you sort of have, I don't know, you just have like somebody else. It's sort of like when you're in corporate America and you're like, look, there's a lot of red tape in my, company, and
Yeah.
like, I'm doing my best. But I've had really good. It actually has done well for myself and our tenants, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've managed it well. And I think some of it's scale too. If you've got 50 rental homes and a property manager, you probably don't need this because you've got so much money coming in and you kind of almost have that insurance in the sense that you've got 50 homes and money coming in from all of them and that's not going to break on all 50 at any one point. But if you've got 3, 4 rental homes, enough that you don't want to be spending a lot of your own personal time dealing with contractors, with companies, repair companies, but you want to flex, you want a predictable expense. This to me is good. So I think it's really that scale too. If you're just in that kind of 1 to 4 rental properties, 1 to 5, it might be a really ideal thing for you. And we found it to be very helpful for us. And we just like having that predictable expense item on our income statement as opposed to just unpredictable swings of expenses.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's wrap up with if you are thinking about getting a home warranty, some of our final tips of how to do it right, right? As savvy as possible. So I think the first one is like use a good company and pay a good fair price for it, right? So like read reviews. Like we've been really happy with American Home Shield. Used to use like
Old
old
Republic.
old Republic.
Yeah, and I think from what I understood from the realtor, it was one that he'd used and felt pretty good about. But and that was 10 plus years ago. I do think American Home Shield seems just more, their website interface is much better and I've been happier with them as a whole. But who knows, maybe Old Republic's modernized, but
But yeah,
maybe they're now Modern Republic instead of Old Republic.
that's a joke. That's a Greg joke, by the way. But yeah, like wait for a sale too. So keep an eye on sales. Like if you use things like Capital One Rewards, for example, if you go to any site and just like, troll around on it for a while and then like wait a day or two, you'll get an email offer for cashback offer for signing up for American Home Shield as an example. They have sales throughout the year, so like sign up for their emails, keep an eye on things, and you can get like a really good deal. And you can get like, 20, 30% off the price sometimes, which, can save a good bit. And so I think that helps to make it a little bit more of an attractive setup also. Again, we said this, but like read the fine print, like understand what you are getting into a contract for, understand the exclusions, understand the coverage limits, like understand the service fees, all that before you agree to this. Know what the cancellation policy is. Like right now, the ones we're on with American Home Shield, I can cancel anytime. And I knew there was a 30-day waiting period to, make my first claim. And again, I've had decent success with them. And like, it's, again, it's a little bit, dealing with contractors can be a pain in the butt no matter what you do. Like if you've ever had to do it a lot. And so it's like you're dealing with there's just always going to be a little bit of like some pain and headaches and like dealing with a company to get things fixed. But you just want to like go into these things eyes wide open and realizing like I am not saying you are going to like sign up for a home warranty and anytime anything in your house breaks, it's just going to get like magically fixed for free, right? You got to like understand how these plans work and read the fine print and know what you're getting into. And again, this is a personal decision based on your own financial situation, your risk tolerance, the age and condition of your home. Ultimately, the best quote like warranty is to have a really healthy savings account and an emergency fund because again, all insurance products you're sort of prepaying and I almost think of it as like they're holding my money. Like I've been paying into a homeowner's insurance for 20 years now. So someday if they have to replace my house, like I've paid them for a good chunk of it, right? And so you just want to think about that piece and like know yourself and know how you are financially. And again, a home warranty is not a magical cure-all for things. Like it can be a risk management tool if used well and appropriately and thoughtfully. And I will say I kind of always go back and forth. Like I've had times where I'm like pro home warranties and I've had times where I'm like, they're unnecessary. And I continue to remain cautiously neutral is the best way I can say. Like, what would you say if you had, Greg, this is a good question. If one of our kids, we're only like, 5 years away from something like this happening, 5, 10 years away, came to you and said, hey dad, that was my impersonation. I'm buying my first house. Should I get a home warranty or not? What would you tell him?
I think I would, depending on their financial situation, say yes, for a time, that would probably be a wise thing to do. If they don't have a lot of money in savings, I would say don't go get the most expensive one. Get a less expensive one and put the extra money that you would have spent in savings and build up a savings account. But I think it could be very helpful for a first time homeowner for sure. Because otherwise, if something happens and they don't have the money, they're
Calling
calling
you.
us saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, help me fix my HVAC."
Yeah, it's kind of like having it on our rentals. You might want to have it on your kids' property just so they don't call you.
Yeah,
I actually might gift my kids a home warranty for their first
that's a nice idea. Yeah.
little housewarming gift. Yeah, so the jury's out. There are some things that you will hear me have very strong opinions on. If I was sitting there, like if someone was debating me on a home warranty, I would say you could convince me either way. I'm not so strong. I mean, like I will sit there and like argue with you all day long about why I don't think the average person needs a financial planner. I will not sit there and argue with you about home warranties because if you feel like a home warranty isn't for you, then you are correct.
Mm.
And if you feel like a home warranty is for you, then you are correct. You're all correct.
Yeah, very situational.
Okay, Greg, how's it feel being back on the podcast?
Feels good.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gonna join next week?
Probably not.
Okay.
But, we just also mention while we're here as an update, when we did the 6-month expense tracking, we committed that we were going to do a monthly review with each other, and we did.
We
It
did
didn't
do it.
happen right at the end of the month,
It was
but
almost right at the end of the next month, but it was not 6 months later. You're right.
yeah, it was 3 weeks into the next month. So we could do it more timely, but now this month we've been kind of more actively kind of looking at the numbers as we go through. So I just wanted to share that update, accountability thing, check, we did it.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. Well, good job to you too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Greg, for coming back on and letting us hear your sweet, sweet voice for
Your
a little
sweet
while.
hoarse, raspy
Yeah,
voice.
your sweet, sweet, cold voice. We appreciate you guys listening. We know your time is limited and valuable. I always love it when you spend some of it with us. If you've enjoyed this episode, we always like it if you want to leave us a written review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Yeah, we really appreciate it. We always encourage you to share this episode with a friend or family member to encourage ongoing discussions about money. And if you have any thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you. And you can leave us a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370 or hit us up on Instagram. Okay, bye, Greg.
Bye, Maggie.